In the deep, oppressive silence of the night, a young girl named Aurora finds herself paralyzed, her body shaking with a primal fear that no child should ever have to endure. Every shadow in her room seems to stretch toward her, but her focus is entirely on the space beneath her bed. She hears it, a heavy, rhythmic movement, a wet scratching against the floorboards that makes her skin crawl. Unable to hold it in any longer, she lets out a piercing scream that shatters the midnight calm of the apartment. Almost instantly, her parents burst through the door, frantic and breathless as they check on their daughter. With tears streaming down her face, Aurora points a trembling finger toward the shadows and tells them that there is a monster living under her bed. Her mother, trying to remain calm, stays near the doorway and crouches down to peer into the dark void beneath the frame. "There's nothing there, Aurora," she sighs. Her parents, exhausted by her frequent terrors, tell her it's time to sleep, wishing her a final good night before clicking off the light and leaving her alone once more. Aurora, however, is far from comforted. The air in the room feels heavy, and the scratching beneath her has not ceased. Driven by a desperate need for safety, she decides she can no longer stay in that room. She quietly climbs through her window and onto the balcony, preferring the cold concrete and the open air to the wooden floorboards that hide a predator. From her vantage point, she occasionally peeks back inside, and through the glass, she can still see the shifting shape of what her mother called a dust bunny, moving under the bed. Looking up at the vastness of the night sky, a shooting star streaks across the horizon. Closing her eyes tight, Aurora makes a silent, desperate wish. Suddenly, a tiny firefly flickers into existence right in front of her eyes. Its glowing light seems to beckon her, and she begins to follow its erratic flight path across the balcony railing. As she watches the street below, she notices her neighbor from apartment 5B, a man who has always been a shadowy, silent figure. Leaving the building and slipping away into the night, the following day, Aurora's obsession with her neighbor grows. She finds herself in the lobby, peeking into his mailbox to see if she can find a name or a clue about his life. Just as she is looking through the mail, she hears footsteps and quickly dives into a hiding spot as the man from 5B returns to collect his things. She watches him from the safety of the stairs, her heart hammering against her ribs. Later, when she sees him heading toward the elevator, she gathers her courage and decides to follow. She hesitates at the threshold of the elevator car, but the man silently holds the door open for her, his expression unreadable. She steps inside, the tension thick in the small space. Once they reach their floor, she cannot help but stare at the heavy wooden door of his apartment as he disappears inside. That night, the pattern repeats. Aurora stands on her balcony and watches as the man from 5B leaves his home once again. This time, she is prepared. With a heavy blanket clutched in her hand, she slips down the rusted fire escape and begins to follow him through the city streets. The man is hyper-aware. He hears a sudden noise and spins around to face whatever is trailing him. Aurora, acting on pure instinct, dives beneath a row of large trash containers. When the neighbor looks back, he sees nothing but a discarded blanket caught in the wind. Assuming it is trash, he turns and continues his journey. Aurora keeps up the pursuit until they reach the neon-lit streets of Chinatown. To hide her identity, she finds a discarded theatrical mask in a trash bin and pulls it over her face. She scales a nearby building, navigating the rooftops so she can keep a bird's-eye view on 5B. Eventually, she tracks him into a narrow, dark alleyway. She watches from above as he is surrounded by a group of hostile men wielding a massive, ornate dragon puppet. Suddenly, 5B springs into action. He jumps from the shadows, performing incredible, dizzying pirouettes around a metal pole before launching an all-out assault on the men. One by one, the men surrounding the dragon puppet fall. 5B is forced to roll out of the way as the massive dragon nearly crashes down on him, and a well-timed explosion from the firecrackers takes out several more attackers. In the heat of the fight, 5B reveals a specialized weapon, using it to parry a lethal blow before continuing his rampage. He slides beneath the silk body of the dragon, killing the men holding the frame from below. To Aurora, watching through the haze of colored lights and acrid smoke, the scene is transformed into something mythological. She is convinced she is witnessing a hero kill a living, breathing dragon. After the battle ends, Aurora follows the wounded man back to their building. She notices that he is bleeding, leaving a trail of dark red droplets on the floor. Every few steps, the man stops, takes off his shoe, and meticulously cleans the blood from the floor using his sock. The very last drop near his doorway is wiped away with his sleeve. He enters his apartment and pretends to shut the door, but he is actually keeping a sliver of it open to spy on Aurora. He watches as she emerges from her hiding spot and knocks on her own door, waiting for her parents to let her in. While her parents give her a bath, they scold her for her behavior, but Aurora isn't listening. Her eyes are fixed on the floorboards, where she sees the dust bunny shape disappearing into a crack in the wood. Later, her father puts her to bed, jokingly telling her that he is taking all of her worries and putting them in his pocket to keep them safe. Her parents wish her a final good night, but Aurora's reply is a chilling goodbye. Soon, the familiar, terrifying noises begin. Aurora dives under her blankets, pulling them over her head as the monster finally emerges fully from the floor. It leaves her room and heads toward her parents' bedroom. From her bed, Aurora listens in absolute silence to the sounds of splintering wood, the guttural roars of the beast, and the frantic, short-lived screams of her parents. She cries quietly as the sounds eventually fade into a terrifying silence. The next morning, Aurora's world has changed. She is too terrified to let her feet touch the floor, so she navigates the apartment by sitting on a hippo statue with wheels, pushing herself along with a stick. She checks the master bedroom and finds it completely decimated, but there is no trace of her parents, no bodies, no blood, just wreckage. After eating a lonely bowl of cereal, she goes to the lobby and waits all day for the man from 5B, but he never appears. Returning to her room, she walks along the furniture to avoid the floor. She freezes when she accidentally drops a grape, but when nothing happens, she keeps moving until she reaches her bed. She takes off her boots, but one of them slips and falls to the floor. Suddenly, the entire room begins to shake. Aurora hides under the covers as a section of the floor is slowly cut away from below. A massive, hairy claw reaches through the hole and snatches the grape. The monster eats it, but it clearly hates the taste, spitting it back out with such force that it hits a lamp and breaks the bulb. Aurora tries to cover the hole with her blanket, but the monster simply pulls it down into the darkness. When she tries to run, the beast moves her entire bed to block her path. It then emerges fully, revealing a gargantuan, hairy body. The bed ends up stuck on the monster's back, and Aurora clings to it for dear life. The beast turns in circles, looking for her, but when it cannot find her, it retreats back into the floor, the wood closing smoothly behind it. The following morning, Aurora finds her boots neatly placed on the bed, which confuses her. However, the sight of the broken light bulb confirms that the monster was not a dream. She goes to a local church, watching as people place money into collection plates. When it's the children's turn to take the plates to the priest, Aurora pretends to help but instead runs out of the building with the cash. Later, 5B finds a strange envelope in his mail covered in cute stickers. Inside the envelope, 5B finds $327.42 and a plea from Aurora. She wants to hire him to slay the beast beneath her bed. When she arrives to check on the payment, 5B tries to explain that monsters aren't real, but Aurora is adamant, claiming the creature already devoured her parents. Curiosity leads 5B to her apartment, where he finds a bullet casing and blade marks, but no blood. Aurora explains the silence by claiming the monster eats screams. Back at his place, 5B reveals he is a hitman, explaining that his monsters are actually professional killers, but Aurora insists her family died simply for touching the floor. That evening, 5B's handler, Levern, suggests Aurora is a witness who needs to be eliminated, but 5B refuses. Sensing an hit is imminent, 5B rushes to Aurora's apartment. He kills one intruder in a brutal struggle, while a second assassin is suddenly devoured by the monster erupting from the floorboards. 5B and Aurora then work together to dispose of the first killer's remains, packing them into panda-patterned suitcases. During the task, Aurora reveals a chilling truth. The monster has eaten all her previous foster families because she wished it upon them. Levern eventually reveals she sent the killers and mocks the monster as a trauma-induced delusion. However, the situation turns into a massacre when hitmen and undercover FBI agents, led by a woman named Brenda, storm the building. The monster resurfaces, shrugging off bullets as it devours the assassins one by one. In the chaos, the beast swallows 5B, but spits him out the next morning. The bitter, thumb-sucking deterrent on his gear made him inedible. The final confrontation occurs when Levern arrives to finish the job. 5B pleads with her, calling her Mom, and revealing she is his mother, but she ignores him. The beast emerges and consumes her. Finally, Aurora realizes the creature is an extension of her own will and commands it to stop. The duo leaves the city for a new life, with the monster running alongside their car as a permanent guardian. Back at the apartment, Brenda is the sole survivor. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press the bell icon for more amazing videos like this.